What technological achievement is long overdue and should already exist? All electronics should be waterproof and drop-proof, but that would have Apple's revenue. A pill that has the same nutritional value of an entire meal, or an entire meal that has the same nutritional value of a pill. Those small food capsules from science fiction movies that can grow into real food when placed in water. Like those growing dinosaurs from my childhood. Places pizza into hydrator, hydrate level 4, please. Being able to make playlists on Netflix, or a random episode button. The real penis enlargement pills. It'll never happen. That's the end of the human race. We'd all grow our dicks too large to be able to procreate. Solar panels on shop roofs, above parking lots, antiperspirant that actually works. Come to Phoenix. There are hundreds of parking lots with solar panels covering them in tens of thousands of homes. With solar panels on the roof. Artificial organs. There are far too many people waiting for a kidney or heart transplant that die without ever getting the monsieur. I wish graphene existed as a commercial product already. Specifically, I'd like it to replace all battery technology. The dream-level graphene battery that can recharge in seconds and power something like a smartphone for a month while being the size of an SD card. Or at least no larger than current smartphone batteries. Even more than returning long phone charges in the smartphone era. I'd love to see them be the solution to the problem of energy storage in a world that focuses on renewables. Individual households could buy an appliance in sizes ranging from a bedside table to a server rack, which could provide power for days in the event of an outage. Topped off by rooftop renewable energy. Municipalities and nations could invest in huge farms of supercapacity batteries the size of a small car but a fraction as heavy, and link them together to power an average city for weeks. Electric vehicles also wouldn't have to be a full ton heavier than they should be, with the 1,200 pounds battery of the Tesla Model S amounting to 26% of its total weight. This would greatly increase their range and might finally be the thing that makes them overtake the ICE if you can incorporate a dense, fuel tank-sized battery in the usual spot, giving a compact car a driving range measured in the thousands before needing a recharge. Everything could be charged by renewables, both from big wind, solar farms and individual roof panels from residences. All our electric-using devices have grown increasingly power-hungry over the years, and battery technology has lagged behind for decades as the same poorly scaling Li-ion technology is required to get increasingly fatter and heavier in order to give usable life. A high-spec laptop will barely last a couple of hours running demanding programs phones used to hold a charge for a week and can now barely manage a day of average use. It's embarrassing. It's like all our technology is waiting at the finish line to move into the next phase of development, but they're stuck waiting for the exhausted fat kid before they can go anywhere. Well, battery power density is one of the biggest bottlenecks currently, so I'm sure a lot of people are trying to develop what you are proposing. So just some patience. Something to prevent hair loss or stimulate hair growth. We should have already been to Mars by now. We went to the moon 50 years ago, goddammit. You're right. I'm still pissed that Neil Armstrong passed away without seeing permanent bases on the moon and expeditions to Mars. The ability to easily travel from one side of the world to the other in less than 1 hour. We got close to having something like that with Concorde. If you dug a hole through the earth and jumped in, it would take you like 45 minutes to reach the other end. Going around, yeah, that will always take quite a while longer. Also, as soon as you went high enough past the core, assuming you don't incinerate, you would start falling, and the process would repeat until you came to a stationary point at the core. I'm not sure how stationary you'd actually be. Not a scientist. If you ignore air resistance in the molten core, you would end up at the same distance from the Earth's center as you started jumping in. and come to a complete stop at the end and then start accelerating into the opposite direction back and forth would just be a matter of someone grabbing you at the end. Cheap insulin. It's been about 90 years since it's been isolated. I'm sure my phone has all the computing power that existed in the world when insulin was developed, and is far cheaper now than it would have been then. Insulin is cheap though, that is just a US problem, monsieur. That's an economic, legislative problem rather than a technological one. Insulin is dirt cheap, you're just getting gouged. It's ridiculous that the original discoverer wanted it to be affordable for everyone that needed it, and yet now we have a few major pharmaceutical companies producing insulin and justifying the ever-increasing cost with improvements in the formulation that are protected by multiple patents. Also, one of the largest purchasers of medications in the United States, Medicare, is barred from negotiating prices with the companies producing them, monsieur, and this applies to way more than just insulin as well. EpiPens are another life-saving medication that should not cost anywhere near as much as what it currently does. I get from a general perspective the R&D costs of medications are very high, but the fact that these are life-saving medications that are protected by multiple patents for minor incremental improvements that do not justify price increases makes it ridiculous that a company is now profiting off of those in a situation that they potentially have little to no control over their need for the medication, as well as the fact they are often in tighter financial circumstances than individuals that don't need these medications. Support open insulin, making ocean water drinkable on a larger scale. Food, healthcare, and education for all. Arguably those exist already. We just lack the collective political will to implement them, monsieur. Can we please have a heated defrost strip in the windshield where the wipers sit? Anyone living in the snow belt will understand. Range Rovers even have a fully heated windshield in some models. Effective and safe male birth control. Non-permanent is what you mean to ask. Effective and safe male birth control is removing them. The other procedure that I forgot about. Self-driving cars and rapid transit that is actually rapid. Self-driving cars kind of do exist though, not in a meaningful way for consumers. Battery technology has barely progressed in the last 50 years. Large-scale energy storage needs a big leap for a lot of those futuristic technologies to become feasible. Lead acid to NiCd to NiMH to LiPo, Li-ion respectively. We definitely did improve, it's just slow. There's totally been an improvement. Have you ever tired using batteries from today in old tech like a Game Boy Color? That shit will last so much longer than it used to. Exactly, the stuff we use today just demands more energy. Sex robots. Detroit Become Human. A decent standard library for JavaScript. It would make web development so much better. At the moment most JS devs just put dependency after dependency of pure bullshit into their code. And a lot of those dependencies are literally one or two functions hacked together by some prize billet to pad out his CV. They're all bodges that should exist in the standard library but either don't or didn't until recently. So people put together these awful pieces of crap, and on top of that they have to be backwards compatible with idiot versions of old browsers and the idiotic things you used to have to do to deal with those idiotic browsers' idiocy. Case in point, there's a library that's literally a function to tell you if something's a promise or not. It exists because before JS had proper promises, there were a dozen different libraries implementing promises, and while in modern JS you can use instance of older codebases have to be able to distinguish all these older ways of doing it. The fact that it has to exist, and the fact that this 12 fucking lines of code is a fucking whole NPM dependency is exactly what's wrong with the JS ecosystem and why it needs a massive digital plunger to unfuck the clogged sewer of fucking bullshit that it is. Idiotic developers just pile on these idiotic dependencies written by other idiots rather than learn how something works and implement it themselves in a way that's not idiotic with respect to their project. The NPM ecosystem is a skip fire the software industry stands around, gets their cheese-infested cocks out, and pisses in while singing fucking kumbaya. Aside from a few abominations like type coercions and automatic semicolon guessing, modern JS isn't actually terrible. It's certainly leagues better than the awful heap of bullshit it used to be. The ecosystem is still just unbelievably shite though, and the poor old language gets a bad reputation because of all the idiots using it to write terrible code that has all the reliability of an Austin Allegro in a bath of salt. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.